everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the 2020 Evolve virtual after party. My name is Amanda Sharp, and I am the manager of chapter and partner relations at NACE National. We welcome your questions today. You can submit them through the questions or chat panel of this GoToWebinar. We are recording today's presentation. The recording will be made available in the chapter leader resources section of the NACE National website. Please reach out if you have any issues accessing the recording in chapter leader resources. I'd like to get started and introduce our 2020 Evolve speaker, Peggy Hoffman. Welcome, Peggy.
Hi, it is so exciting to be here with you guys again. I see folks still coming in. This is awesome. So you guys know what an after party is, right? It's the party that continues after the event that allows us to kind of relive the event and to build better, stronger relationships, and also begin to say, now what do I do, right? So while I don't have any drinks to give you guys, I can't even pass you off a cup of coffee or even some ice cold water. We do have lots of ideas, and we do have lots of things that you can do coming out of the Evolve conference and away from this webinar. So one of the cool things that you guys have is a Facebook community, and if you're not on it, I'm sure that Amanda can get you situated. And in that Facebook community, we get a chance to pose questions. You can pose questions to each other. Staff can pose it to you. And I've been on it just through the Evolve time, and I've been able to have some conversations with you as well. I love the latest conversation because it connects so strongly what we're going to talk about here, and that was, what are the questions that you get about membership? And what was really interesting as I was reading these questions is I was seeing some other interesting trends. One of the biggest trends is, of course, this whole notion of the value, right? It's like, if you want me to pay, what is it? What's the difference between for a membership versus coming as a non-member and paying a little bit more? What's the difference between you and ILEA? What's the difference, what's the value rather of me like engaging with folks that are potentially my competition? So the interesting thing is that these were all questions, lots of different directions. One of the things that I think is worth us really spending some time on is that because it gives us the hint for how do we answer that. And that is for us to really understand what's behind these questions, really understand like, what's the true motivation and the true driver. So let's take a little bit of time to talk about that. And let's start with this big question of why people join. Now, I'd love to have you guys do a real quick poll for me because I'd like to get a sense of why you think people join. I'm just going to give you a pretty short list. And I guess that we've got this going. So you have three choices. They go for the list of benefits, so they're shopping to see all the different options you have, and the longer the list, the more likely. They come for the networking, the connections, or they come for access. So go ahead and just jump in there and tell us what you think. Is it the list of benefits? Is it connections? Is it access? All right. Amanda, what do you think? What do we got on there?
I think we're getting there. All right, I'm going to close the poll. I'll give you 2 more seconds. Ready? All right. I'm going to share this. All right.
Awesome. Let's see what you guys had to say. What is it? What does it say? Give us a little hint here.
It says 100% connected.
100%. All right. So I love that, and I'm going to guess that at least some of the folks that are on this webinar might also have been in the session, because one of the things we did indeed talk about is that a key reason why people bother to join is connections. They're looking for connections to peer, they're looking for connections to friends, they're looking to connections for the professional network. And that's all well and good. I have to tell you, though, that we forced you into one answer. Connections is the strongest answer, but very close is access, because access is about the fact that I can get to the knowledge, to the education I need, ideas that will help me grow my business or grow my career, to the affinity programs that help me save money or maybe open up new opportunities, and actually access to funds. So it is these twin things. It absolutely is not the list of benefits. And I know that that's going to fly in the face of sometimes we think about it. But if you think about why you joined, it wasn't all the things you were going to get. It was the fact that it was a connection to people and it was going to open doors. And those doors could be to lots of different things. So yes, folks, it is about the relationships. It's about really understanding how we create a one-to-one connection that allows people to see themselves and to see a community they want to get involved and engaged in. Now, at the chapter level, if you really want to gauge those members and to build the membership by bringing in new folks and keeping the ones you have, we have to really figure out how we dive into the connections and the access. Now, we talked about a lot of things out in Dallas, but I want to bring some things back to us right here. So one of the things we talked about is as you're taking a look at how can I tailor some of my events and activities to really hone in on the connections and access, we talked about you could look at it from the angle of, in fact, should look at it from the angle of benefit priorities by career stage. The latest research coming out of the association world, which is really taking a deep dive look at why people join and stay connected, comes from Community Brands from their member engagement and loyalty study. You can download this free if this is the kind of thing you love to read. But up here is really the essence of what we learned about it. And that is, and if you look across here, what drives the loyalty to you and your chapter and to NACE writ large is going to be where I am in the career way more than it's going to be my age or my generation. If I'm early in my career, I want to connect with you for the must-have training. I want to connect with you for the industry information, and a lot of it is driven on this job opportunities. Mid-career, it's more about the information. And late career, it's more about the code of ethics, which I really sort of capsulize in saying, you know, I'm invested in this profession, and because I'm invested in this profession, I really want to see things happen. So let's dig in a little bit deeper, because we could spend some time, each and every one of you on the call could spend just a little bit of time taking a look at your new members that you want to make sure you keep in the fold, and maybe a few prospects that you've got that are hot prospects, and say, okay, where are they? If they're in the early career, we ought to be talking to them about really what we can do for training. What does this raising awareness mean? Well, what we do know about folks early in the career, they're very interested in being involved with an organization that is out there, being involved with an organization that has some appearance, some presence, and that's what we're talking about there, and then following the industry information. If we just start with those things, it allows us to say, okay, for the training, you know, let's make sure we've got training that's going to be targeted to those that are getting started. Those are maybe in the first 5 years of this career. Mid-career, this is how are we making sure that we're keeping them up to date? How are we making sure that there is a good balance of here's some important information for you to know, here's some really solid training. Oh, and by the way, you know, here's how we're elevating all of the work we do. And for those late careerists, be talking about where the profession is going and the degree to which the degree to which you have a code of ethics and you have standards, and that creates a pride and a prestige that's related. So we can take a look at and tailor any of our programs and services in a way that really connects where someone is in their career. I don't know if you've kind of looked at this before at your chapter, but maybe you have an upcoming event, and maybe there are 3 different emails that go out. The email that goes out to the folks that have been around, the email that goes out to the folks that are newer in the profession, and maybe your lead reason why you should come is different, and maybe that's what triggers an interest and an insight in this event and brings a person who may not have come. So little and then larger ways that you can use this. Now, one of the interesting things, though, is we can look at it from the career stage, but there is a little bit of fuzziness. You saw here, like industry information is here. It's top of the mind for them. It's in that third place. So industry information is in each one of those elements. So another way of taking a look at why members join and how I can connect them to the organization is to perhaps look at them from a different perspective, to look at them by, I'm going to call it by your personality. I'm going to call it based on your drivers. Now, there are really a number of drivers that we can talk about. I'm going to pause here for a moment, and I'm going to ask you to put in the chat as we are talking about the benefits by priorities. I want you to put in the chat what questions do you have about these, and where do you think you land? So information seekers, just focus on these four for a moment. Information seekers are those that are inherently driven by having access to timely, useful information. Okay, information seekers are the folks that want to know, they want to be up to date, they want to know what they need to know right away. The lifelong learners are the ones that feel like there's either a need for a competitive edge, or there are people that just have an intellectual pursuit. They're just really interested in how much more they can take in a way that helps them inform and evolve, that helps them go in new directions. Now, if they're certified, there's going to be a credentialing connection there, which may be a driver for some and may just be an add-on for others. But in this continuum that I'm showing you thus far, you have people that need the information, the people that want to learn, the people that are using the credential as kind of their framework for learning, and then you have the people that want to be the teachers, if you will. You have the people that have had that learning, have those ideas, have some experience, and they want to share it. Oftentimes, the driver for the thought leader is not just the sharing of knowledge. They want to seek recognition. And part of that recognition is being acknowledged, and part of that is raising their profile. So if you take a look at these four elements, what we're really talking about are folks that are involved largely on this information and a little bit around this notion, beginning to get into this notion of getting involved. But it's this idea of, I want to connect with the content, if you will. As we go through this balance, we begin to get folks that are really looking at how are they connecting in. So the rising stars and networkers, the mission members, the prestige members, and the transactional members. These are people that are tapping into the organization. So the rising stars are tapping into the idea of the people. The mission is tapping into helping the organization move something forward, moving a concept, moving an important issue forward. The prestige members are looking at being able to tap the organization for this kind of exclusivity that really drives some credibility. And the transactional members are looking at using stuff that you have that will allow them to save money. So the interesting thing is, you can be in more than one bucket, but most of your members will be driven largely by either this idea of involvement or information, and will have a predominance in one of these kind of personal drivers. Let me tell you the story of two association execs that I know from my association, which is the American Society of Association Executives. So our national organization, ASAE, 100 years old today, this year rather. Two of my colleagues became new CEOs in a relatively close time frame. What struck me, what brought home these benefit priorities by personal driver, is the fact that when I talked to them about being a new CEO, and this is another level in the career ladder, and we were talking about what does a CEO need, but when I looked at how they accessed what they need, they needed similar things. But Steve is all about the information. Steve is all about really, he subscribes to the e-letter. He uses the discussion post. He uses the library. He taps into every time there's a book or a white paper, he's downloading it. In other words, he's really, his driver is around that information, right? Greg, on the other hand, he goes to the meeting. So I don't think he's missed an annual meeting probably in, 15 years. He doesn't go just to the annual meeting. He goes to some of the specialty meetings as well. You will see him at the state associations as well. He's also on committees, and he's constantly raising his hand and really out there to be actively engaged. So his driver had to do with that involvement. So you see how this gives us another way of looking at it, is what's the personal driver? And generally speaking, it's going to be involvement or information. So I have to ask, if you begin to think about your prospects, so think about one prospect, okay, in your mind. Can you guess where they are? Can you guess where they are? Now, while you're doing that, I want to launch another poll, because I'd love to find out what you think your personal driver is. Now, I didn't put all of those options down, and I'll tell you why. I'm just going to assume, and you know what happens when you assume, but you're a leader, so I'm going to guess it's not just to save the money. So I took transactional member off. I did leave information seeker and lifelong learner and thought leader and a rising star networker, and I did leave mission member. But prestige is more kind of, and maybe there's a little bit of that. But I'm going to narrow it down to these 5 things rather. Okay.
All right.
What I love about this is, did we have some answers?
We do. I'll give everybody a couple more seconds to answer, and then I'll close the poll. All right.
Excellent.
All right.
Good.
Okay, I'm going to share the results. So 57% is lifelong learner. Then after that is 29% thought leadership and 14% mission member. The other two did not have anything. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, see, and that makes sense because of the folks that we're talking about. Now, one of the things I want you to think about is if your driver is lifelong learner, or your driver is mission, or your driver is thought leader, I can tell you that if a large number of your folks, their driver is going to be the other elements. It's going to be information. It's going to be rising star. It's going to be transactional. And part of what you have to do is make sure that you don't let your driver be considered the driver for the majority. Part of what we have to do as leaders is really understand who we are and who everybody else is, so that we can make more open decisions. So, but I do love that we have lifelong learners, thought leaders, and mission members here, because you guys are plugged in to why it's important to have a good, vibrant chapter, right? Awesome. Good to have you guys on the program today. So, practical matter. Really great to know that you can take a look at and try to plug people in by career stage or by personal driver. What do you do with this? Well, I'm going to propose that you could have some opening questions with some folks. This could be someone that's brand new. This could be someone who's on the verge of not renewing. This could be someone who has come to an event as a guest. And you might say, hey, where are you career-wise? Like, what's happening with you? And then guide them for you to have a better, clearer understanding of where they are. You might say, I know that when I'm thinking about my association here, my real professional driver is I'm a lifelong learner. But I do know that some people are like, or it's all, it's about kind of the network. Some people say it's about information. What really drives you? That kind of a conversation allows you to begin to know your members and your prospects a little bit more deeply. And it allows you then to be able to create communications and conversations and programming that draws people in. Speaking of which, what are people looking for? I think one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit when we were in Dallas, and I'd just like to really bring it back here, is that no matter what your driver is, no matter what your driver is, people are looking for an experience. They're looking for an experience around that driver. And so even if you don't get the driver right, but if you have a fabulous experience, you're going to create a winning situation. So let's talk a little bit about what this means. And I like to share with people that this Eventbrite study came out and it talked about this 8 and 10 millennials. When I have surveyed groups that I have worked with, I could say easily that this quote could be attributed to Xers, Zs, and even Boomers. But this is all about the fact that experiences shape our identities, create lifelong experiences, and particularly truthful here is create lifelong experiences. And it's those lifelong experiences that make somebody send in the check for membership without thinking, right? So how do we do that? As a chapter leader, you're busy, you're trying to do lots of things, and I know that, and I get that, and we try to make everything perfect. And that's the reason why I think this next point is freeing. Because you see, not everything has to be perfect. It's not that I remember the whole experience, it's that I remember the defining moment in that experience, right? It's really about the fact that there is a singular moment that connects with me, that I connect it to something that gives me an experience, that gives me an emotional reaction, that takes me to a different place. So it doesn't have to be the whole event. I love the fact that this comes, by the way, from excuse me, Dan Heath's book, Heath, Dan Heath's book, The Power of Moments. And he talks about, they did this whole customer research with at Disney, and they had people about in a regular day, roughly every hour, they asked them the question, how's it going? Rate your experience 1 to 10. At the end of the day, how's your experience 1 to 10? What they found is there was not an even 10 across the day. In fact, there could have been, like when they were waiting in line for food and the kids were cranky, a 2. And then there could be, we're waiting in line. At first it was fun, for the roller coaster, and it took so long, a 4. Got off the roller coaster, a 10. Cranky, hot, couldn't get any water, a 3. Bought the Mickey ears, a 10. Kid's face is fabulous. Pictures with a character, a 10. At the end of the day's a 10. The day is a 10. Could have more 1s, 2s, and 3s, but it's a 10 because we created a memorable and meaningful opportunity. So let me give you 2 more examples that come from the book, The Popsicle Hotline. The Magic Castle is it's in LA. It is actually a apartment complex turned into a hotel. Out of over 3,000 reviews on TripAdvisor, 94% of the guests rate the hotel as excellent or very good. It's a 2-story apartment complex, right? And it's because of this cherry red phone. It's mounted on the wall near the pool. You pick it up and someone says, hello, Popsicle Hotline. You tell them what they want and it's delivered to you on a silver tray. At the end of the day, busy day, touring, Disney, whatever, you come back, you're in the pool, and the kid says, I want something, go over to the hotline, and it's yours, no charge. There were 2 teachers, social study teachers, a social studies and an English teacher, and they were upset by the fact that every time you asked a student, a senior, what was the most precious moment, it was either I walked across or my senior prom. They're like, well, why isn't one of our classrooms that? So the Trial of Human Nature was born. And actually, this was in the Hillsdale High School in San Mateo, California. They challenged the students to conduct a trial of the author, William Golding. Now, William Golding, some of you might know or might not know, wrote Lord of the Flies. And they're going to put him on trial for libeling human nature. So what they did was they got the kids engaged and involved in Lord of the Flies, in great literature, and in debate, and in understanding how the society, right, has impacts in so many ways. It's now it's now a national program. What I loved about it was the turnaround. Seniors began graduating, and their moment was the trial of human nature. Guys, we can do this. We can do this in our own organizations. Now, you all said at the very beginning it was value. A lot of you talked about this as cost. The power of moment is the only way for you to argue this question of cost. It's the only way. You can do this by taking a simple moment, a simple opportunity, a simple activity, and you can elevate it. That is, take it beyond the popsicle hotline. It can have deeper insight. It's a learning opportunity, like the Trial of Human Nature, that makes you understand what this book was all about. It could be pride. It's the opportunity for someone who has done an incredible event to get up and win an award in your chapter. Or maybe they did this incredible event, and they get up and they get a chance to share it with the group and be asked questions and be applauded. Or it's a connection. On the PRSA Maryland board, I just love this story. There's a woman, and she's just had her second kid, and she's in an agency, and it's busy and it's crazy and it's da 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 da. She met her new employer at the board level. She stayed on for an extra term that I don't think she was going to, but she did because PRSA helped her with that connection. So it's that way that we do this, and we can do this in 4 different ways, right? We talked about this. Let's go through this quickly. It's get out of the lecture breakout room. It's get beyond the events. It's focus on the power of the moments, and it is connect with conversation, right? So I'm going to ask this question because I bet a bunch of you were at Dallas, and I would just love to know, let's launch another quick poll here. I would just love to know what's in your plan from the conversation. What are you thinking about doing differently? And then we'll dive deep into the 4 of these so that you can maybe either hone in on those plans or you can think differently. Let's get that poll. All right. So is it your plan that you're going to get out of the lecture breakout room? We've been talking about how do I do it, my learning event differently? Let's get beyond events to some other activities. Maybe you've got a couple of ways you're totally going to focus on the power of moments. Maybe you're going to connect through content. So let's just find out what's on your mind. And then as we go through and show you some examples, maybe you can really activate that. We've got votes are coming in.
Mm-hmm. Well,
excellent.
Give them a few more seconds.
We had some good conversation.
Yeah. All right. Seems like we have a clear winner.
See.
Yeah.
Let
me share. So 86% focus on the power of moments. Then we have 29% with get beyond events, and then tied for 14% is get out of the lecture / breakout room and connect through content.
Oh, very cool. Excellent. All right, guys, here's my challenge to you. I'm doing all the talking except when I get Amanda to do some of it. I want you to do some chatting. So while we're talking, I want you to share. You said get beyond the events. What are you going to do? You said focus on the power moments. What do you have? What's in your mind? Let's see if we can build on some ideas here. And maybe if you've got a question about this, we can actually help. And meanwhile, I'll go ahead and we'll share what do some of these mean and get a little bit deeper with some examples. Let's start with get out of the lecture room. Okay, so what are we talking about here? When I say get out of the lecture room, I'm literally talking about get on a bus. I'm talking about move on out, baby. I'm talking about hackathons, pop-ups, use the city, go off-site, to, maybe to an innovation center, go on a photo safari, do glass blowers, add a shuttle bus. Here's a great example of the Do Good Bus in St. Louis. And you can do this. I don't know if anybody's from St. Louis in here, but in essence, what you're going to do is what you do is you commission the Do Good Bus. They find a project, you give them some parameters, but they really make all the decisions. You get up on the bus pulls in, you do the community service project, and then you have a debrief afterwards. Now, how about the photo safari? So here's a really cool idea that my chapter did. And we had a guy who's an award-winning photographer, and we are outside of Baltimore, and so he led a photo safari through Fells Point in which he talked about how to get the best pictures. Some people had, sophisticated cameras. Some of us had our phone, and he gave us tips on how to get good pictures. And then we had the pictures to share afterwards. But there's also things like, I love this. This is a group of arborists, and they had a chapter meeting, and what they did was they actually planted a tree. So they got out of their conference room where they were having these workshops, came out, and they planted a tree. And they talked about this tree and why it was appropriate to plant here and some additional things. I just love the fact that they're taking people out of the room. Of course, if you haven't done an escape room, that's a great thing to do with a team you're trying to build. But here's another way of just simply getting out of the room. So pop-ups. This is a cool thing that we've seen. If you have a larger meeting, go ahead and put some stools in an area, and you can see in the back of this picture, they called this open space, right, at this particular meeting. And there's time slots, and you could go and just write in the topic you want to talk about at what time, and then you would just pull the seats around and have a conversation. So let's say that you're having a one-day learning conference, or maybe you're even having a networking event that has a real education part at the front end, and you say, okay, I'm going to put some casual chairs, and afterwards we're going to let people just kind of pull up together and have conversations. It's creating conversation and learning that doesn't happen in a particular room. Why do this? Because brain science shows us that learning in an unexpected environment is powerful. It is powerful. And as we've talked about, it is what helps you create the memories. We can get beyond events. Let's talk about this particular event that's showing up right now. This is something the PRSA does called Coffee With. In fact, we have a Coffee With coming up. I think it's tomorrow. What is a Coffee With? A Coffee With is somebody who's got an interesting place or an interesting topic, hosts coffee. They put out some light food. Mostly all they're obligated to do is to put out coffee and some hot tea if they can and some water, and lead a conversation from about 8 to 9:30 or 8 to 9:15. We're going to, I think it's the Babe Ruth Museum. I believe that's the one we're going to. We've got a number of them happening. So it'd be a location like that. We've gone to one of our agency members, opened up a new office. We went to that agency member. We have a member in the Baltimore area that it's the Baltimore Research, and they do focus groups. And so theirs was all about how do you use research more effectively, and what does a focus group have to do with research, right? And we got a chance to tour backstage to tour their facility. So a Coffee With is not a formal meeting. It has a little bit more formality, and it's limited in size to about 8 to 10 folks. But you can also think about, what I totally love about this is the group that does the Human Library. So as part of another event, they have an event where they have subject matter experts, and you go to this room and you check out a person for 15 minutes. And if there's nobody in line, I guess you could stay longer. But let's say, for example, that you've got someone who really knows how to make Instagram sing, right? And I'm at one of your events, and you have the checkout. I want to check out 15 minutes of this, how to make Instagram sing. And maybe, and here's the cool thing is, it doesn't have to be part of the event. You could have a match a Match.com for the human library. Like, I need to check somebody out, take him to coffee and talk about X for 45 minutes or 50 minutes. Human library. NARI Milwaukee does an incredible home improvement radio show in which they bring their members on to talk about, and this is, of course, it's public radio, and it's for the public, but it's about doing home improvements, and they bring their experts on to. So this is kind of a give back to the community that shines a light. But what's really neat is it also creates a deeper community within NARI itself. And finally, I love this. We were having a conversation around how do we optimize creativity on the job. And so rather than having someone get up there and speak to us about the fabulous aspects of being creative and, oh, you could do this, oh, you can do that. No. Took them to a hands-on workshop where we were making stained glass ornaments, exploring your creativity. And finally, down here, I just really, I love this example of really highlighting and creating folks. But NARI has Milwaukee also has a Friday feature. And every Friday, they feature another project by one of their members. I had to steal some from you all. Love the Fenway Fun Day. Very cool. What I really like, you can see on the screen, the Home for Little Wanderers. It had this great connection to the community. And I love San Diego NACE. This is a video. It was a time release of their community service project. So in each one of these cases, we're getting beyond an event to find a way to make a connection with each other. Maybe it's with the community, but in any case, it's not about an event. It's really about building an activity that brings 1 or 2 or 10 people together. These are not huge event plannings, but they're really powerful moments. Speaking of which, let's talk about the power of moments. So this is actually a snapshot from a larger meeting that I went to. But what they had in the hallway was the Canine Society brought in dogs that were homeless, waiting to be adopted, and you can pet them and spend time with them. And it's just this really incredible opportunity for people to stop and to pause. And what I heard, I listened, I sat there and listened to see how this was going, and was this worthwhile to do this? So first of all, it's a great community outreach thing. I heard several people saying, you know, when I travel, I miss my dog, or when I travel, you know, my kid is so important to me and he likes dogs, and, you know, this whole connecting professional to family, right, was just so rich. And it also just, it was a spark in the middle of the day. And I really, I appreciated that. And what I really thought was pretty awesome was that some folks, that was the highlight of their day, but they will always remember it as being their association brought them that. Very similar is the Soap Saves Lives at cleantheworld.org. They will come and set up in a conference. They'll bring all this stuff, and what we're doing, and this is my bag that I filled. I go through in each of the buckets, and I fill this, and then I write a note, and I insert it in the bag, and then they collect all the assembled bags later and get them shipped out to incredible places where folks need to have soap. A great story behind it. If you're an information seeker, cleantheworld.org. If you are someone who really is passionate with a mission, cleantheworld.org to take a look at that. Moving in a slightly different direction is the networking string board. Okay, lean into your screen here a little bit and take a look. So what you're seeing here is this is a very large, kind of tall. I could reach the top. I'm 5'2½", and I could reach the top line of nails. That gives you the sense of the height of that. And it's wide. You see about 2/3 of the board here in the picture. And what you have is a series of questions across the top and some potential answers down the side. So what I loved at a meeting I attended, the coolest word ever, technology I'd love to use, if I had unlimited budget on my favorite toy, what makes me happy at work, my bucket list vacation. Okay, you can come up with anything you want, and then you give them answers. Now you see the yarn on the side? So what I do is I walk up to here and I pick a color that I like and I tie it around the answer to the first question, and then I find my next nail and I tie it around there, and so I've given my story across the board. So I did this early in the day. By the time that evening, this was a mass of incredible colors. It showed all of the intersections that occurred here. The most beautiful thing was to see that we were all so different, and yet all of us, there was no nail that only had one person. There is a connection for you in this organization, something that's very easy for us to do. What if you did this at the beginning of the year and you it became a traveling pegboard you took with you, and each kind of time-lapse photo of how the community finds itself. All right, I have to show you this one because this is both kind of a power of the moment thing, but it's also how you can share the power of the moment. So the gal there with her hand over her mouth is being told at this staff meeting that she won the Rising Star, which is one of the awards that we give at PRSA. We had asked her bosses that when they announced this, we used to do it as a surprise at the event, and it gets too hairy because we're trying to get the person there and everybody else. So now we oftentimes have whoever nominated them announce it, but we like to make sure it is truly a powerful moment. It's not like an email. Hey, guess what? I'm going to get you a ticket. You're going to get this thing, right? So they announced this at a staff meeting, and they videoed it and posted it in all their social, and of course we shared it too. And it got tremendous amount of likes and reshares and atta girls. It was a powerful moment for her, still connected, obviously. The organization is connected. It was a powerful moment for them, and it was a powerful moment for our folks who were able to see a rising star being celebrated. So the power of the moment, it has a lasting impact. The fourth thing we want to talk about in some of the time that we've got here is to connect through content. And I love this particular bucket, if you will, because we spend so much time in our chapters putting on events, and then we crunch a registration list and we see, oh my gosh, throughout the year, maybe 30% of our folks are engaged in an event. And it's natural, okay? We don't have time, and when we do have time, where it's balancing act in any case, and sometimes you're just not sure you're going to get there, and there's value. And if one of the things I've been to kind of left me not feeling like really jazzed, do I give the next one an opportunity? That's where connecting through content comes in. You see, we have to make our organizations not just be events, but we have to make them be organizations that really address those information seekers, that really address those lifelong learners, that really help people know that we're there even when they can't be in the room with us. So I'm talking about vibrant social media. But I'm talking about putting the face on social media. This is the DC Dental Hygienists Association. This is their Facebook profile. This is their profile picture, guys. It is not a logo. It is not a logo. That is their board. How cool is that? Their profile picture says, hey, guess what? We're people. We're not a logo. So create a social media presence that talks about the people that are involved. One of the things that these folks do here, they're related to arborists, but they aren't exactly an arborist group, but they do a technical training program for women. And one of the things that they do is they capture some of that training on video. So you have people out in the field and you're getting the chance to see it. And then they also share it through that. So if you didn't come, you see some of the activity. Video helps you connect with some of the content. The training needs to be done in person, but you're getting a taste of it there. And it also lets the community at large see, wait a minute, there are women involved. If I'm a female, there are women involved in this organization and involved with this field, and this chapter can help me make that connection, right? I love this, Austin Neri. Okay, so they just did, this was the coolest picture that they put together. They do an annual bowling trip, and they got this picture last time. At the time I grabbed this, at 41 likes, they sold out. In fact, they sell out most times. But what I totally love about this particular example is that this is them using Instagram in a way that reaches that cohort of folks, talks about community. You could have put up this thing that had you could put up an event title, right, or a picture of the event postcard. No, they put up a picture of the people. They created some really cool elements around it, and they said, hey, this Friday, come on out. Okay, I love this one, again from NACE. It's Kristen O'Connor, and she's sharing why she loves NACE. Now, I'm sorry, you could do as many, emails that say, here are the 10 reasons you should join the organization and become part of the chapter, and you could do a flyer, and you could do a brochure, and I'm going to join because Kristen told me. I see a real person, I hear her voice, I see her enthusiasm. I may not get to an event, but I know Kristen is there, and I know that this is an organization that has people that I want to be around. Yeah. And this was from the DFW NACE, and so they had, they had done a community service outreach project, and what I totally love was the letter that they got back. This is one of the letters the soldiers sent back. They shared it. Kind of the reason why I'm showing you this is because there are people that didn't make that event for sure. There are people that didn't understand how important the event was. There may be people that went to the event but didn't see the impact the event had. DFW NACE, in posting this, answered all of those things. It told me, oh my gosh, look at my chapter. They do really cool things. Oh my gosh, this thing had a personal, incredible impact. And guess what? I'm coming to the next one. So guys, we can't do everything, right? I don't want you to put one more thing on your list. I want you to take something off and say, okay, you know what? Let me think about this differently. Let me think about the folks that are information seekers versus those Rising Stars networkers versus lifelong learners versus the mission folks that are maybe early in their career or really rocking and rolling in their career or seasoned in their career. Let me think about how I can take those find those intersections, right? Find those intersections and then give them something that is out of the lecture room, that is not a traditional event. Maybe it's just a focus on the power of moments. Maybe it's a vibrant Instagram feed. Don't pick them all. Don't try to do too much. But when you engage members, you grow. Now, I started with those questions, and we talked about the fact that one of the themes I saw was value, and we talked about on the value. I said, if you really understand what people are connecting for, coming to your organization for, joining is connections and access, and they're looking for that through the lens of experience. And in looking at that through the lens of experience, we need to tailor it based on where they are in their career path and their personal drivers. And we can do that without remaking everything, right? We still come back to cost. And I know that you guys get that cost a lot. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it because I think if you use other things, the cost conversation pretty much is a has-been conversation. But I think if we do a little bit of comparison, maybe we can begin to show how there are things that we pay for on a regular monthly basis that are important to us, and that maybe it's along the same amount of money we get something that is deeper relationships, learning they can't get anywhere else, and truly an opportunity to explore whatever greatness they want to find in their profession. Or, as I like to say, find out where they want to go and show them that you have the path. And guys, they'll pay for the ride. I hope some of this is useful for you. I hope that you can take some of this home. Are there any questions for us, Amanda, before we tie up and allow these folks to get back with their day? What do we got?
The questions were just mostly about costs, but you and especially with non-members. So I think you answered that with the last slide there. I think it's important to show them that $34.58 a month is, that's a lower cost.
I mean, right. And at the end of the day, when someone says to me, and I love that one question, it was, if I can pay a non-member fee and come when I want, and what they're saying is they're transactional, right? That's the driver, right? They're transactional. And further, what they're saying is that I don't see a value in the networking. I want the dollars. So maybe you have to come back in that case and have the equation. But you know what I usually say to that kind of question is, and I say, oh, well, actually, joining, and I'm just going to use PRSA Maryland, if it's a dollars and cents issue, that's not really why you would decide to join PRSA Maryland. We're not here to save you money. We're here to help you go the next place that you want to go in your career. And we do that by connecting members. And so in order for us to do that, we use the dues as a way to support the programs and the activities that we're offering. And so, yeah, you could keep coming as a guest, and I could show you what you're missing. And I just leave it there.
That's great. That's fantastic. Does anyone else have any last minute questions before we end the webinar? You might be able to get, a few minutes back in your day. That would be great. Just trying to double check.
No more questions. A quiet group today.
I know.
Well, that's okay. It is great to have all of you with us. Let me suggest this. I love, Amanda, you put the Facebook post, the Facebook URL in earlier. That's awesome. Guys, sometimes when you look at this and then it's going to be archived, maybe you go back through again and you say, I just don't understand her point there, right? I don't understand that point. Or I love that slide, but I'm trying to figure out how I can translate that to me. Just use your Facebook group, and if I'm not on it, someone will get me the question. But maybe posing some of those questions will allow you all to actually help innovate new ideas. It has been my pleasure being with you. Please feel free to connect with me in any way if I can help further illuminate any of these ideas and answer any additional questions. And hey, be successful. Enjoy your time as a leader. Enjoy being a member of NACE. And most of all, enjoy being in your profession. Thanks.
Thank you, Peggy. Those are powerful words. Thank you so much. I have enjoyed working with you this whole time leading up to Evolve and now. Thank you, everyone, for attending. This will be available in the Chapter Leader Resources section of the NACE National website, and I will be posting this directly onto our Facebook group as well. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.